Every idea starts with a spark.
My name is Berthine Crèvecoeur West. What's your name? Now that may sound like a simple question, but for me, it's where it all began. I was made in America with Haitian parts, and as you can tell, I've always been a fan of a good pantsuit. My mom and dad are originally from Haiti, and so from the age of 8 weeks to 2.5 months, that's where I live. My Aunt Maurice loves to tell the story of my first day of nursery school. I was so excited in my crisp uniform, filled with excitement and hope. The teacher, while she was taking roll, called out, "Bertine Bernard, Bertine Bernard." No one answered. Finally, after she had called all the names of the kids, she looked at me, the only child still silent. And she said to me, "What's your name, my dear?" And I, in my tiny, determined voice, said, "Ninus Keskes." Now, Ninush was a name that my sister Marie had given me because I was her little doll. And Keskes, well, I was only 2 years old. I hadn't quite worked up to Crèvecoeur just yet. But even at that tiny age, I knew my name was my origin story. You see, it turns out I was accidentally enrolled under another one of my family names that I cherish dearly, but it wasn't my name. My name is my identity. My mother had always wanted a little girl named Jennifer. Now, with my 2 sisters, Marie and Rose, I was her last shot at ever having a Jennifer. So for a couple of hours, I was Jennifer. Then in burst my father with all of the energy only a Haitian dad can have. Think Mufasa from The Lion King. Then when he saw me, he picked me up, looked at me proudly, and declared, "Her name is going to be Bertine." Now, he took half of his name's Robert, so you could tell the first part. He took half of his name and half of my mother's name, and that's a common tradition in Haitian culture, stitching names together like stories. And so, while there are other people in the world that share my name, an 8-year-old Jewish girl, an 85-year-old Muslim grandmother, my name is uniquely imprinted with 2 people who loved me into creation. So names are more than just how we identify ourselves. Names are data, history, love, legacy, and culture. Names matter. My name is Theodore, my grandfather, a French-Algerian soldier who fought in World War I on the side of France and for freedom. He found his way to Haiti, and that's where he made his home. And he was the start of our line. My great-grandmother, Tuli, a Dominican woman who died when her daughter was 8 and would never live to see her future generations. My grandfather, Robespierre, an attorney and an entrepreneur, and his neighbor and colleague, my other grandfather, Leonidas, who was an ambassador of Haiti. My grandmother, Ulna, who, after losing her mother at 8, was then orphaned when she lost her father at 10. She then became a landowner, which was unheard of for her gender, her age, her time, and her country. My father, Robert, who is the vice president of Haiti's only electric company and in the annals of Haitian history, as he brought electricity to his hometown. My hero, my mother, Tulia, who left everyone that she knew and loved to come to America for a greater opportunity for her children and their children and their children. I am Theodore. I am Tuli. I am Leonidas. I am Robespierre. I am Ulna. I am Robert. I am Tulia. My name is a love story. My name is. So now I want you to think about your name. Who gave it to you? What's your origin story? And what does it mean to you? My name, actually, is a German name, Berthine, and it means the bright one. My last name, Crèvecoeur, is a French name, and it means heartbreaker. Cool, right? So now, while I love a good story, I also love data. Data is a truth teller. It tells us where we've been historically, it tells us where we are right now with regard to current trends, and it serves as the catalyst for decisions that we would make in the future. Data, well, one of the pieces of data that you should know is that names are the hardest thing for people to remember. Can you believe that? The very thing that makes you you is the very thing that people have the most difficult time remembering. So I want to share a story with you. I was once on a team, and the team leader always said my name incorrectly. And at one point, I would correct her over and over and over again. Finally, I said, you know what? I'm just going to let her do it. I'm just going to let her do it. And I, at that moment, made myself smaller so I wouldn't be an outsider at meetings. I made myself easier to understand, or at least that's what I thought, so I could be accepted. And so, sure enough, once I let her mispronounce my name, the rest of the team started mispronouncing my name. And then one day, as we were in another one of these meetings, she looked at me, and rather than say my name to get my attention, she snapped her fingers. Needless to say, that very day, I decided that was going to be my last day at that company. So what happens when we mispronounce someone's name and we don't even say, or we don't even try to say it? There is a loss of talent, trust, and yes, revenue. Not being able to pronounce someone's name is a missed opportunity. And another data point tells us that it makes us, when we mispronounce someone's name, it makes us see them as less intelligent, less trustworthy, less capable. Talk about a bad first impression. So if I mispronounce your name, you might see me as less than, just because I didn't build a bridge and open a door by asking you the simple question, what's your name? And tell me how to pronounce it. So now, while I love my name, Berthine Crèvecoeur West, I've been called a variety of things over the years. I've been called Bernie, Bertha, Beth. One time, someone even called me Berthuzela. I'm not even sure what part of the alphabet they were working with that day. But so while I can say this with laughter, let's pause here for a moment, because behind the smiles and the laughter, there is a deeper truth. When we don't recognize someone's name or try to say it correctly, what we're doing is robbing them of their authenticity and their joy. What we're doing is telling them, make it convenient for me to not say your name. Anyone been called a nickname without their permission? I'll tell you, Bertha, Bernie, and Beth sure have been. And for sure, Berthuzela got called many a thing. So what happens when we decide to go with the flow? Because we play a part in that as well. If I let someone mispronounce my name or respond to a name that is not my given name, what we do is create a social contract. There is an agreement that says, I'm going to shrink myself for your convenience, for your comfort. That's not a great relationship to be in, not with yourself or anybody else. So I want you to think about history. Over time, people fleeing war and devastation have had to change their names to adapt and to survive. It wasn't for style, it was for safety. So changing or shortening your name, that is a survival technique. But then I want you to think about people who come here to this country, immigrants, artists, even CEOs. They shorten or change their name for a very different reason: for access, for opportunities, for open doors. You may know Helen Fola Sade Adu as Sade. Ramon Esteves, he's Martin Sheen. And Jamie Foxx's birth name was Eric Marlin Bishop. So when we decide to shorten our names, there is a price to pay. We're choosing to keep a part of ourselves secret and apart from everyone else. That's a difficult choice to make. It is laced with sacrifice, whether it's for safety, whether it's for business. There is a price to pay when we don't make people say our names correctly. Our names are both our shield and our banner, our true names, the names that we were given and the ones that we've chosen for ourselves. But when we don't hold people to the task of learning our names, we also rob ourselves of building a genuine relationship with them. So I want you to think about how it would feel if no one ever said your name correctly or otherwise. Now let's be clear. I'm not saying this to shame anyone that has ever shortened their names. On the contrary, I'm honoring them because it takes courage to walk between identities. So, while I know my name is unique here in the United States, I also know that it's storied and it is beautiful, and yes, it's worth learning. So one of the things that I decided to do was, when I'm at conferences, I had noticed a pattern. And this was not working for my networking at all. People would see my name tag and go in the opposite direction. They would see this name that looks so different, and it would deter them from coming over to chat with me. So now when I go to conferences, I write my name out phonetically. And this way, what I'm doing is turning it into sort of a game. But this is strategic networking. So as I turn it into a game, the very same people that were once repelled by that long name on the name tag, now they are gravitating towards me. I've created an inclusive environment because our name is more than our identity. It's how we invite people in. And then, after a while, it becomes a guessing game, and they want to see if they can pronounce it. This is a radical act of kindness. It requires presence, intentionality, and effort on both of our parts. This is how we build a bridge. And so, this is one of my personal business strategies. And so with kindness, well, first, I'm creating empathy for them by giving them this tool. That little card is so very powerful. It tells them, I understand this might be a challenging name for you. Let me help you say it correctly. Then I'm showing them kindness by giving them time. Then I'm showing them grace by saying it's okay if you don't get it right the first time. I'm also, at the same time, silently, quietly giving myself grace as well, because I'm reminding myself each and every time, my name is not a burden, it is a gift. So what happens when you pronounce someone's name correctly? At work, what that does is lead to happier employees. Happy employees are productive employees. And with productivity increasing, then we have increased innovation. We have a community of belonging that is created. And yes, we have increased revenue. The data tells the story. So, while there is no magic bullet for inclusion, what does that look like in everyday practice? First, when you meet someone whose name you may not understand or that might seem challenging, pause. Smile, because a smile goes a long way. Ask them to say their names and tell them yours. Ask them to repeat the name. Practice the name, and then rinse and repeat. This requires intentionality, and it is a revolutionary act. So I want you to know, when you say someone's name correctly, it is a declaration. It says, I see you. You belong here. You matter. It is the most beautiful act of kindness that we can give, but it also serves to be a catalyst for building community. So I'm going to conclude where we began. What's your name? Not your username, not your nickname, not the name you let people call you when you make yourself smaller. What is your name? The name you were given or the name you chose for yourself? I want you to see it as the catalyst to creating and building community. I want you to see it as the invitation that it truly is. So I'll say it once again, join me. Become a catalyst. Become a name champion. And now think about it as the invitation. Hi, my name is Berthine Crèvecoeur West. What's your name?